Alright guys, this is the continuation of the previous video. Mazda 606 V6 2002, and basically I have a P0400 and I hear a vacuum leak under the manifold. So we're going to begin to extract what's in the way. We have spark plug wires, we have that PVC line, we have a few vacuum hoses on the back of the manifold as well. Prior to do all this, I would advise you to remove the battery terminal. Also as well, try to take the fuel relay out to exhaust whatever gasoline is inside of the line, and that way you could actually reduce the risk of having gasoline sprayed on your face or having gasoline leak all over inside of the manifold, the runners, inside of the engine block. And just to let you know, the one that we are going to be taking out for the gasoline pressure bolt is this one right here. Having a bit of a hard time showing you guys this guy right here. And he has, immediately after the bolt, you have a copper line. You have the through fitting, and then you have a copper line. Given the past experience that I've had with this car and this repair, and specifically removing the intake manifold, have something under this location right here. I actually had the copper fitting fall down in there, and it's very tight in there. So have a few extra ones, or have something to hold it, or put your hand under it. That bolt is a 17-inch size. I will be taking it off with a box wrench, and it's not that long. However, just snug it in, have extra copper replacements. I actually bought a replacement just in case it falls down, but I'll be making sure that I do remove it. Also as well, like I said, PVC line, 3 spark plug wires. We have 8 bolts for the intake, 4 in the back, 1, and 1 nuts. It is often advised, I'm going to give you the advice of having a magnet extender or extension for you to grab them down. It's pretty tight in there. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to actually extract the bolt or the nut with the tool that I'm using. If I'm not mistaken, those are 12mm bolts, and it works as well for the nuts as well. Harness has to be completely removed out of this bracket right here. Pinch them, pull out. You don't have to do too much after that. This, you may actually have to take it off. I'll follow up with you guys if you have to. All this harness, all of it, all this wires has to come off. Throttle body, like I said, will come off. These are 12mm nuts. You have 2 bolts in the bottom. The elbow has to come off. The MAF airflow sensor has to come off. Throttle position sensor has to come off as well. Solenoids, vacuum lines. Be careful, those can break. And I have a spool over there from Mazda. They use the same hose diameter for it. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 1/8 to run all the vacuum hoses. So without much further ado, let's actually go ahead and take whatever gas is inside of the engine out, so we don't have pressure in the system. Okay. Alright guys, as a follow-up of what I mentioned before, the fuel pump has to be disconnected. On this 2002 Mazda 626, the relay is located right about here. And just in case you're still carrying the factory one, something like this gets placed right there. Run the engine, and all whatever's left in the gasoline line leading into the engine should actually be burned down, and the car should start stalling, it should just refuse to start up right after that, and that's a good indication that you do not have gas in the line, therefore no pressure. So after that, just make sure, like I said, keep that negative cable out right after you do that. I had already taken it off in the previous clip, and just for demonstration purposes, always take it off when you're doing a big job or anything of this nature. This is a big job, so just take that fuel relay off during operation and you'll be fine. Trust me, I had a gasoline spray on my face before, and it's not the most pleasant sensation. Alright guys, like I mentioned before, alright guys, so I took some time off the camera. I'm alone here recording myself, and I took some components out. And just to let you know, it's 10mm bolt, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 right here. You can take this off if you want. What I did, I took pliers and squeeze whatever was there. Here we go. Squeeze these tabs in and pushed in or pull out, depending. For those that are interested and you're looking for the sensor for the coolant, it's right here. This right here is a slide in. It looks like a ground to me. This right here, for those that are interested, this is the wire for the crank position sensor. You have all the components here. Set them aside. Like I said, everything up here is 10mm. Those are 12 in there, the runners, the bolts for the runners. You have a few things in here. You have a lot going on here. Wires. Somebody's pushing their cars to the limit out there. These are basically fairly simple. This bracket goes right here. I like to put the bolts back where they go so I don't misplace them, or one is longer than the other one, breaks something, doesn't line up. All these connectors are squeeze and slide. Simple as that. When you guys are putting it back on, the advantage of this car and many other cars is things go in just one place. They have been here for so long, they already know where to go. This bolt right here is hiding right under here. Sorry guys, the camera. Right here, it's a 10mm bolt. Again, took it out, roll it in, take the elbow off. Here we have the filter, MAF, the elbow, and then the throttle body. This hose right here, just in case it's fighting you off, goes right up there on that elbow. And this is a perfect time to check for cracks, tears on anything that is related to the air intake. We're gonna actually the procedure to take this off. I'll show you how it looks. This can come off. If I have a chance, I'll show you guys where the EGR is. I can see it from here, but it's a little dark in here. These two right here, I strongly suggest that you take them off. They're 10mm, and basically it's a harness that holds this whole thing together. Like I mentioned in my previous video, be careful with the hoses that actually go to these valves. One right here and one right here. Just be careful. You break the nipples of these valves, you don't have to repair them. They don't sell it by themselves. And in case you want to buy the whole intake manifolds, you're looking at a big expense over there. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue removing the other parts. Alright, so this is what I've done so far. I've actually removed all the fasteners. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, that's 4 nuts, 4. A few things that I want to let you know is when you are actually in the throttle body area, this cable right here will actually spit out a little bit of antifreeze, which is okay. This right here, this is the alright, I took out 2, 4, 6, 8 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4 nuts, and that basically takes this area loose from the engine itself. There is a bracketing here, and this slides over and aligns with that hole right there. And basically there's a bracketing there that I'll show you there later, hopefully, if I can film it. It's basically is a bracket like this. It basically it holds part of that harness that you see back there that I took out earlier. A few things that I want to let you know is this is the return gasoline line. It goes right here to this fitting. You will see a little bit of gas come out of there. This right here, it's a 17-inch size socket or wrench, and basically that is the main source line for the gasoline. And basically it's like a banjo bolt, through bolt, and you have a copper washer there, as you can see, and you have one that goes after. Basically I put them together, but this second washer goes in between. And basically this guy is ready to come out. You have one right here. For those that are interested in, let me see if I can show you guys. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. This is the fuel filter. For those are interested in removing the fuel filter and exchanging it for a new one or checking it out. If I'm not mistaken, when I did the job, which was rather uncomfortable, 2mm bolts. You have a hose in the bottom, which is basically following the flow, bottom to the top, and then it goes this way. The silver missile looking thing, it is the starter. Basically it's mounted in between the transmission and the engine. Not that bad. I'm gonna see if I can take this whole intake out and I'll show you the other parts. Basically guys, you are done here and you're ready to take this out. As you can see, it wiggles, it's ready to come out. I took care of the hoses in the back. I will show you in depth, hopefully on the next video after I remove it, what's back there, how to connect it, and if I really can't show you because it's really dark over there, I do have a nice clear diagram from Mazda for you guys to see. And what we're looking for here, just any of those that are turning in late, we're basically going to take this out, flip it, and at the bottom you're going to see that I have two containers, canisters basically, and you have vacuum lines in between. And if I'm not mistaken, when I put it down last time when I did the valve cover, this fell down on me, not that bad, but I believe I cracked one of the hoses or something there was moved or out of place, and I have a vacuum in there. So I'm gonna address that today, and I'll show you what I have under, and I'll see what I can find. And just for those that want to know what I'm working with, basic tools. And again, for those, try to be organized in how you work. This is the bracket that I was talking to you about right after the fuel rail, the 8 bolts, banjo bolt, the 4 nuts for the intake, and the rest of the bolts that I mentioned before I put back into their respective locations back in the intake. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on. I just wanted to show you here how it looks like. Make sure you put a rag inside of those intake ports, and I'll do that shortly. What I wanted to show you guys is that I tried to remove this whole thing as a unit, and the throttle body, it's fighting with me because of this hose right here. Now, if I'm not mistaken, last time I did not remove it, so it is in there, very good. It actually goes all the way to the EGR, which hopefully I can show you in there. This guy right here is the EGR. Let me see if I can get a better light in there. This guy right here is the EGR. So you have an EGR line coming out of the unit itself, and it goes to the throttle body right here. So whichever you can take off, you can take it off out of here and pull it up, And basically that is it. This is quickly the mess that I was referring to. The wires, the solenoids for the valves, hoses. It is not the easiest thing to do. Take your time. Like I said also in earlier, I'm sorry. I'm going to show you how this looks like. I already found the crack. It is not a hose, but I'll show you the repair for all of it. And just in case something else applies to your situation, you can use this as a reference. I'm gonna let this roll in here for a little bit so you guys can see. Line, actually a coupler in there. You have this metal runner right here. It basically goes to the bottom of the elbow that leads to this throttle body. Like I said, remove that off. It's gonna fight with you. This right here I did not explain to you before, and my apologies. This basically goes to the brake booster right here. And for those that are doing this for the first time, and if you remove it and you hear like a big gas of air in there, that's okay. It's just air trapped in the system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to either try to remove that hose from the EGR or remove the throttle body, which I really do not want to do because last time I did it, the gasket broke. So if that's the route you're pursuing, make sure you have a replacement gasket for you for your prospective application. Alright, so far this is what we have. I went through I wouldn't say it's inconvenience, but I took the throttle body out. And for those that are actually looking forward to changing the valve cover, here we go. Nothing crazy. It's just, again, the intake is the worst of it. And it wasn't even that bad. So again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bolts. For those that are actually wondering, and those that have the CEL engine, and they are fighting with how come they can't take the intake out for whatever reason. They took all the bolts out. They have checked everywhere. Here's our guy right here. So what I did was, a while ago, I took the bolt out, and I don't use it. Not at all. And that bolt actually bolts, sorry about the light, right through here. That's what I have. And this is basically the intake, upside down like I promised you guys. You can paint it, you can do everything. If you made it this far, clean out the runners the best you can. Paint them if you like. Check the hoses to make sure that nothing is cracked, brittle. It does have a lot of hoses. This is again the regulator for the gasoline, the bolts for the throttle body. Take some time if you guys want. Clean out that little hole passage right there. Also the throttle body. Perfect time to clean it out. And this is again my problem right here. It broke, and I know I made this mistake when I settled it down. It slipped out of my hands. It fell down on the valve cover and it cracked. So I'm going to look for a way to actually repair that. This hose is right here. Oh, this one and this one. Pretty brittle. You can leave them as is, but if you have the time now to do the time and give them a new set of fresh hoses, please do so. Do understand that I'm not going to pursue this on my end because this area right here, it looks white. So in the past, what I've seen is something that it looks white and I force it, it is going to break. This is plastic. So basically this is what I have here. Just a vacuum leak thanks to this guy right here. So I'm going to address that. This right here, you have two, I believe these are switches. Yes, two switches. They slide in, 1, 2. They are the same. They're pretty pricey, so do not break them. In my case, the slide pin broke. However, mine's still functional. I can still attach it there, and I'm going to do so after I do that. this hose right here goes to the valve cover. Right here. Part of the PVC system, if I'm not mistaken. Runner. This goes to this guy right here. So keep that in mind. And I'll be right back. Let me address this problem right here. I may actually use some sort of cement without blocking the passage. And one way to test it out is apply air. Clean it out if you want, blow through it here, and listen for any air leaks. That way when you put it back, you don't have to do double the work and putting it all together. So I'll be right back. Alright guys, so far this is the repair. Now, nothing really wrong here except that it broke. Everything here is very, very brittle. So what I did was, in order to stop playing with this joint right here, joint and the other joints, and I see that somebody attempted to repair down here, given the fact that it is very brittle and it's just cracks. So what I did was, I took 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts down here, and they are 10 millimeters, and basically these two chambers came up together, and basically I put everything back together. I put a little bit of liquid tape here. It's basically somewhat of a same compound as whatever the hoses are made, and basically it's sealed. It's solid. Alright, so while I was doing the repair, or during the attempt, I noticed that everything here was very brittle. So in order to stop applying force to it, I took out the fasteners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 millimeters, and this whole thing came up as a single unit. And basically I applied some liquid tape in here. It's solid. I know it's not the preferred way, but this part right here, when I went to Mazda, it's $30, and it's 2 weeks away from ever getting here. So I order it anyways. I'm gonna keep it aside, and if for some reason I do have a problem with it, I know what the deal is. I bought plenty of hose. I bought these two guys right here, $30. The whole hose set, which is an 1/8 diameter, 1/8 inch of a diameter wide. Paid $20 for it. These two I do not remember, but what I will do for you is show you what I have here. The part that broke over there, the part number is 13-995. The hose that goes right after that, you can buy it at any local auto store or buy it at Mazda, and basically that is 35 millimeters. Attaches to this guy right here, which is the chamber, and the chamber parts are 20-339A and ×2. You have 2 of them. You have a vacuum line right after that, 60 millimeters. This guy right here wraps around, and basically it attaches to the 2 solenoids that I mentioned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it together here. One, these are made by Mitsubishi. They do have them at the local auto store. They're very expensive, by the way. Well, they still work. The clip on mine broke, so I'm still using it until it fails on me. And here we go. Here we go. And here we go. Alright. I wish whoever designed this engine was smart enough to actually put the same insulator that you have over here, and over here. I know it's, they could have moved it over or attach it right here. Engineers at their best. But anyways, this insulator has kept this line right here fresh. It feels like it's brand new and it's never been replaced. So looking at the diagram, which I'll do now just to double check my work, you already see how it goes. It comes right here. Solenoid comes here, comes here, comes here, and it attaches to this guy right here. If you feel like you have to pull too much, rectify your work right here on this small clamps, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to do is I'm going to shift it over a little bit so I have more of the hose to play with and put it into that shutter valve right here. This is the shutter valve that I had worked on before, and basically I did about a month ago the liquid tape that I mentioned just not too long ago, and it works. It has worked. So just be careful, like I said, guys, be careful. So far everything is reverse of installation, and I'll go ahead and double check my work with this assembly sheet and put everything together, and hopefully I'll bring you guys along with me. Before I move on, perfect chance to look at your injectors. 1, 2, 3. They look pretty clean, however the small chamber is not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean them out. Carburetor spray, clean them out. You don't want that junk in there, but basically that's just carbon that builds in when combustion is happening. So address that. This is your time to do so. Do not forget to put the bolts back in if this is your situation. And again, this is for the EGR P0400 recirculation code that I received on this car when I put everything back together when I did the valve cover gasket. And before I move on, I just wanted to show you guys you do have an oxygen sensor right there. It is a tight fit, very tight, but this is your chance now that if you have to rebuild this engine or work with it, this is the time to do so. That is the infamous EGR valve right there. Connector, the EGR itself, take it out, clean the passages, put the hoses back. 2 hoses, one goes to the throttle body as discussed, and the other one, I believe, goes somewhere. I have to follow it, guys. Sorry about that. These are the connectors for these guys right here, the solenoid switches, and basically you just connect them and put everything back together. On the next video I will actually show you the torque specs for the plenum or the intake manifold, and everything should be pretty simple, and we'll see if after so many miles we do get that code back. I did disconnect the battery, so that code is long gone in history. So let me take you along, guys. Alright guys, basically it's just reverse of installation here. We're going to take it step by step, and we're going to start by removing the rag. We'll put together so no contaminants go inside of the runners. Inspect everything in here. What I noticed was a lot of junk, so just clean it out, make sure it does not go inside of the runners before you take basically the rag out. This unit right here, for those that are wondering, it is not heavy. It's just to hold it down, but it's basically about 20 to 30 pounds. And you might have a little bit of gasoline in there from when you took it out. And take your time in aligning it. You still have the studs for the nuts that you took out, or I took out earlier from the intake. And do not let it slam from the back side. That's how I was able to crack that little green filter that caused me this headache. And of course, no obstructions. Take everything out. And I'm fighting with something, so do not force it down. Okay. So perfect. Alright, so let's go ahead and start running these guys down. 1, 2, 3. And the rest of them. I have one. Given past experience, I've had this bolt not reach where they are. It's a tight fit. You still have the rail, and you still have a narrow passage. So basically, hold it down and guide it down. Another thing that I do, and actually this technique works better for me. Magnet, run them down if you can. Just spin it around, or a screwdriver. Place them. This is not so bad for the bolts. The nuts, I actually have more of a problem to guide them down. And this is the best technique for the nuts, especially for the real ones. This is not so bad. 1, 2, run them down. 2 more. That's not so bad, but this one in the back always gave me a challenge. We do have a vacuum hose in there. Just set it down and run it down. Now I'm going to run these finger tight, and I like to use 2 extensions. I'm going to leave them as is. I'm going to look in my book to see what are the torque specs for these guys right here, and I'll take you along with me in how to torque them down to the factory specs. Three bolts, 4 nuts, 12 millimeter on all of them. Excuse me, guys. Alright, almost done. And the last one. Something that I came up across last time was the intake manifold was not aligning well. And one thing that I did see was that the fuel input from the gas tank was actually right under it. So try to make sure that everything aligns, not any type of forcing whatsoever. You're going to break something, create more challenges. Not the way to work, guys. So, following up, PVC line, it goes right here. Right here. Good time to check it out. Make sure that it's not restricted or contaminated. It is actually one of the cheapest repairs you can do. I believe I found it at AutoZone for 10 bucks, $15 on Mazda. Given the fact that this is a car that is discontinued in their book, they don't stock it at Mazda. Again, this gasket is now broken. I replaced it like about a month ago when I did the other repair. Two bolts, the bottom, two nuts. And again, I'm going to run them down. I'll look for the torque specs for these in a little bit. And just in case, for those that actually ask, certain times I will torque to factory specs and certain times I will not. This is my philosophy on certain things about torquing. When it's engine related, I do torque to factory settings. When it's something like a battery terminal or a hose clamp, I just do finger tight and I go with my judgment. Normally this type of things go with a 1/4 inch. Do not over tighten because you will break something. Create more headaches that you do not need. And we move on. This is the hose for the booster brake. Alright, it's all the way flushed in. It does have a clamp. And for those that have never done something like this, when you do clamps, try to set them up for future times. So whenever you do work at them, or with them, I'm sorry, they're easy to remove. Do not put them in an awkward position where you can't get clamps or anything of the sort, because you're gonna bury yourself in there. Two nuts for the throttle body. Bring it tight. And here we go. Hose clamps. I believe you go right here. And yes, you do. Yes, you do. When I work like this, I strongly advise you to wear safety goggles. Personally, I do not like them. I do have a pair, and I only wear them when I'm dealing with liquids. Like when I took that hose for the gasoline intake, I took it out, and I wore it. And I'm glad I did, because even though I depressurized the system, it did leak a little bit, but it didn't come out squirting like last time. I do not mind the smell of gasoline. However, it will get to you quickly. This hose goes in there. This hose was part of the plenum. There is a solenoid similar to the one we had in the back here, and that's where it goes. We have quite a few hoses here to work with. This hose at the beginning of the plenum, the first runner you see, goes at the bottom, and it goes right here at the solenoid in the cabin where the air filter is. Alright, moving on. Taking these guys out. 10 millimeters, by the way. One. Alright, this one doesn't want to cooperate. Two. Line it. Hold it down. Something like this, guys, I will not torque to factory specs. Finger tight is just fine. For those that ask, what did I use for my painting? I actually use flat black from AutoZone. Cure it. I basically allowed it 15 minutes per coat. I did 3 coats. The last coat actually requires a longer curing time. And basically I let it be for about a half hour. After that, I put a coat of clear, 15 minutes, and a second coat of clear, and I call it a day. It does require to cure it at a 200-degree environment, like an oven. To me, it was finger dry, and to me, the proper curing, which it worked out for me, was putting everything together, and with the engine heat, it actually cured. And it's been 2 weeks. This part of the glove is clean, and it's just dirty a little bit, but it's dry. Not a problem at all. You have 2 harnesses back here. One gray, one blue. They snap into the clamp back there. And just like I told you guys, everything's going to want to go back to its place. 2 bolts here. 10 millimeters, by the way. One wants to come out, the other one does not. Excuse the helicopter in my neighborhood. Two. Amen. Good. Okay. Be difficult. Line them up. Finger tight to run them down, and then you take them in the rest of the way. You could actually take these out if you want. They do have clips, squeeze and pull. Basically, that's all there is. All right, here we go. All right. Where's that banjo bolt? Just for the gasoline, guys. 17-inch. And it's tricky. Very, very tricky. Basically what I do is I run it down so it doesn't come out. It wants to come out. And it's a very special bolt, so do not lose it. Again, same trick to everything else that is hard to reach. take it out, put a rag under it, just in case it falls. You can grab it with a magnet. Do not go crazy. This fell down on me once, and I had to take the whole thing apart, and it set me behind 45 minutes. One copper washer. Here we go. So align it. And my 17 inches right there. Alright, so it grabbed. I'll torque it down soon. For those that are actually interested in other codes that this car will generate or can generate, piston number 135, odd side, bank number 1, bank number 2, even side, 246. Just in case, this car, Mazda recommends, and I strongly recommend the same thing as well, use NGK plugs. This piece of plastic can break. I have bought it 2 times since I own the vehicle. They do get crusty and break. This can break, this can break, this can break, this can break. And altogether I bought it together at Mazda for 25 bucks. Okay. Finger tight, you don't want to break them. These are plastic. Alright, back to this. I believe this is a ground. It goes to the fuel rail, slides in. Connector is yellow and gray, by the way. Snaps in with a temperature sensor, coolant. Snaps in. The crankshaft sensor, I left it as is. Black one clips in the back, gray one clips right after. Solid, solid, nothing loose. This bolt right here and this L bracket. There is a bracket that slides from the fuel rail, actually from the housing right here with the air filter. Slide it back in, put this in, 12 millimeter by the way, and run it down. Make sure it goes nice and straight, facing up, nice and snug. The gas regulator has a Z or S type of shape vacuum hose, 1/8. Slides right here through the solenoid switch. Everything is lining up, as you can see. Okay. Finger tight. Good. Good. $10mm, by the way. Basically is a bracket that holds the throttle body to the plenum. 10mm, by the way. This harness right here has a clip, snaps into the bracket behind it. Everything is good. Just double checking everything. I do have to connect the two solenoids in the back soon. This bracket right here goes with two 10mm bolts. To me, it wasn't comfortable. You want to leave this for last or later on if you want, or you can put this in now. I actually made the mistake of putting it together, and it's uncomfortable. Take it out. Set them aside. By the way, these bolts and the bolts that goes for the throttle body cable assembly, 10mm, same kind of bolt. Thread, length, shape, you name it. Back to this, it goes under. Two bolts, by the way, line them up. In this case, try to line it up with, starting from the bottom. To me, that was the most uncomfortable one, because when you put the top one, you will not be able to tighten the top one, the bottom one, I'm sorry, because the top one is in the way. With this one, I believe I went at it with a 10mm ratcheting wrench. Slide it through. Do not tighten it all the way, by the way. Give it back to me. Apparently I was not even putting it through, bolt through anything. I just did now. Here's the second one. Wrong side. And again, nice and tight, not to overkill it. Again, this is aluminum and it can break. This is exactly what I was telling you. I cannot reach the one at the bottom. Nope, can't reach it. So with the throttle body, always start with the bottom one. And I believe I am all set. If it wants to give it back to me. Thank you. throttle body is very short right after that, so bend it down. And I'm talking about the butterfly. Run it through the loop. Let it go for a little bit. And slide the pin. Okay, all that's very good. Alright, so the banjo bolt for the gasoline, 17 millimeters, is giving me a bit of a headache problem. It's just not lining up. So it just happens to be that I'm lucky enough to really grab the thread. Okay, so here we go. With a bolt like this, I would like to go and use the factory torque specs, which again, I am going to look soon at the book or the manual. So for this, finger tight until I find it. Take the rag out. This is what I was telling you guys. Squeeze and pull. Okay, so we have two bolts right here. Back to this, clip, and snap it. Alright, that's two. Okay, good. Alright. Something that I mentioned before, I don't know if you guys can see it. This is the coolant passage and the hose to the throttle body. Now I'm going to take the time now to slip it back in. Pull down. And slide it in. It does have a clamp. It fell down. It's lined, so hopefully I can grab it with the magnet. Nope, it won't grab. So it's a 10 millimeter, or you can use a flathead screwdriver. And again, do not tighten a clamp and bury yourself next time in a position where you can't take it out. So this is a good position. Rag's not coming off. Hoses, hoses, hoses. Everything good. So line everything up here. Like I said, guys, they're gonna want to go back to where they belong. They've been there for so long. The wires sort of will tell you where they go, where they belong. The good thing about this and many other cars is that you cannot make a mistake with the wiring. The harnesses will go one way because of the shape and size. This guy right here goes to the electronic ignition module. I take that back. It goes through, or goes to this guy right here, the MAF. This guy right here goes to the throttle position sensor. This one right here goes to the bottom. Make sure you don't put it way too down. And it goes at the bottom of the throttle body, like around here. You feel the connector, you can see it here, there it goes. There is a hose this hose right here, which we discussed before, slip it in through the bottom of the elbow. It's a 9-degree elbow. You might need 2 hands. And there he goes. Wires go where they belong. However, this is a little uncomfortable for me, so this is what I like to put in first. So take that out. 10mm, by the way. Put in the electronic ignition module. This guy right here. Too many wires, I can get to it from that side. If it doesn't go one way, try the other one. Do not force it in. Okay, good. Then we go with this guy. Goes like this. There's a notch in there. I would put it through first. Run it down. It's a 10mm right away. And where's my 10mm wrench? Right here. Nice and tight. Back to connectors. This one slips through the solenoid, similar to the one we had back there. Look at the way, how it goes. There we go. Good. This one goes right here. If it stops fighting with me. Okay, so. Okay, here we go. Everything is done. Clips in. This is why the old bracket is there. And I believe I am forgetting the return gasoline line. And basically it's down here. The hose is right next to it. So I'm just going to slip it in from a different side. Take pliers so you can fish it through, guide it. push it in. It does have a clamp. Slide and hold. Nice and steady. Good. All connectors are done. I believe I had taken the relay out. Make sure that it's in. Okay. And let's clean up. Alright, looking here at the manual, just to give you a visual proof of the specs of this car. I'm getting this from the Mazda 626 MX 4 Pro Haynes repair manual. It's an okay manual. I prefer the Mazda one, but this actually just cuts it for what I need. And what we have here is a intake manifold, bolts and nuts. We have 14 to 18 feet foot-pounds. And basically you can use a digital torque wrench or a clicker style. So I'm going to set it up for 16 foot-pounds. And we're going to torque that down. Alright, 16-inch foot-pounds. Okay. Two. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. That's it for the bolts. 1, 2, 3, and last and not least, 4 at 16 foot-pounds each. So I addressed a few things that I was missing, like the elbow that I mentioned before. It was actually back here. I put it together with the inlet of the rear valve cover inlet in there. I tightened down everything. I was not able to find the factory specs for the fitting, the banjo fitting for the gasoline inlet. So what you're going to do is we're going to turn it on. We're going to look for leaks. Remember, we took down the hose for the coolant going to the, sorry about the noise. We took the coolant line from the throttle body. We took out the gasoline lines from the rails. So you're looking for leaks around that area. And remember, I didn't overkill it, but I tightened it down. Look for leaks. That's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to turn it back on. And again, if it does not turn on, again, remember, you took out all the gasoline inside of the system. Just put the key on before you turn it on. Let the gas flow in and then turn it on. Alright, so look for leaks, run it, do a test road, and see if the check engine light comes back on. What do you call this, a win?